I'm representing the well-respected Principal Belden. This case is about a principal within his authority suspended a student, Maria Andrews, from school because she wore a tuxedo. By suspending Maria from school, that did not violate her First Amendment rights. Why? Because her speech did not represent symbolic speech. It did not meet the requirements. And if it is considered symbolic speech, she caused a material and substantial disruption in the educational environment. It is only considered symbolic speech when two requirements are met. One, the speaker must have a particularized message, and the message must be understood by others. In Maria's case, it was not understood by others, and it could have had multiple meanings. One meaning, it could have represented her uncle's business. It could have represented Amber Green, or it could have represented her trying to get attention for her campaign. In the court case Spence versus Washington, a student hung an American flag upside down with the peace sign drawn on it. That incident occurred only in a amount of days for the Kent massacre, and it was an intense public concern. In Maria's case, that occurred almost 10 days after, and it was not an intense public concern in the high school. Unfortunately, the yearbook is not an intense public concern, and it is kids more favor in the yearbook in the prom.
Ms. Johnson, if I may stop you there. You state that this omission from the yearbook of the picture of the other student is not important to the community, correct?
I'm not necessarily saying it's unimportant, but more students favor the campaign and prom more.
Okay. I'll take it that they favor the campaign or prom more. What evidence in the record is there that the students did not find the omission of this picture of this particular student to be important to them in their community being in school?
Well, students were very excited because Maria, in her campaigning, she was versing a very well-known student, so more people were paying attention to the campaign.
Thank you.
In the Tinker case, there was a meeting held, and school officials knew that armbands would be used to represent the war. And in Maria's case, there was no meeting held, and no one knew what her purpose was for wearing the tuxedo. To prove that Maria's message was unclear, one of her fellow peers had to ask her what her intent was for wearing the tuxedo. In response, Maria passed him a note saying, "Isn't it obvious?" on a flyer that had "See the big picture," and on the back side it had an advertisement for her uncle's business. That shows that her speech was not obvious. It could have representing both, and it's not representing just "See the big picture" for Amber Green. It is more likely that her peers thought it was representing her uncle's business because during her speech, her uncle came along with her and spoke upon his business, and he offered every student who attended the school a 35% discount off if they spoke her name in the store.
Do you think the principal could have suspended her if she simply came to school with a tuxedo and her uncle and passed out flyers for her uncle's business? Do you think he could have suspended her for that?
No, she didn't cause a disruption. Well, if that was to happen.
I'm sorry?
If that was to happen, her coming to school with a tuxedo on with her uncle speaking about the business, no, that would have violated her rights because she didn't cause a disruption while she was doing that.
Why don't we move on to the disruption part of the test? Why don't you tell us what your client's position is on whether or not, assuming that the first prong is met, whether or not Ms. Andrews did cause a substantial disruption that justified a suspension.
If it is considered symbolic speech within his authority, he acted appropriately because she caused material and disruption and substantial disruption in the educational environment. On April 22nd, she wore a tuxedo to school, and she disrupted the class by passing notes that caused the teacher to stop and ask her, "What is she doing?" The next day, she wore a tuxedo again, more children started acting out and joking on her tuxedo. Principal Belding, he acted appropriately because of her conduct. He foreseed a risk and he had to act on it before it could have escalated into something worse.
So wasn't he really suspending her because he wanted to prevent future outbursts in the AP review, not because she had caused these prior, what I would call minor disruptions?
No. He suspended her because she had already caused a disruption during class for a significant test review. And also, along with that, he was thinking ahead because it is his duty as a principal to maintain a safe learning environment without disorderly students. And if she would have continued on with her disruption, it would have caused serious consequences for the other students with their test.
Ms. Johnson, note passing. It occurs almost every day in every high school, correct?
Correct.
But every day in every high school, students are not suspended for note passing, correct?
Correct.
Then how in this case is the note passing substantial and material?
Well, along with her note passing, she also called multiple disruptions. And in the court case Tinker, they acted with passive voice, and if she would have acted with passive voice, she wouldn't have gotten suspended.
Do you think Tinker would have come out differently if there were kids in the class who were immature and made fun of the kids wearing armbands? Do you think then Tinker would have come out in favor of suspension?
It depends on the circumstances of the case. Maybe it could be a possibility. Yes, children do joke around, but it was during a serious AP exam and there are no records of the children acting out prior to her wearing that tuxedo to school.
If you think the principal was correct in suspending her, do you think the school was correct in not putting the picture of Amber Green in the yearbook with the tuxedo?
I actually don't know the circumstances for not putting her in the yearbook, so I can't really answer for that. But for this, the principal was acting appropriately because he saw the problem. She was the root to the problem, and the way to end the problem is to get it by the root, and she was the root of the problem.
Well, Ms. Johnson, I have one question for you. Is it fair to suspend Maria when other kids were the actual cause of the problem?
Yes, it is fair because she was part of that disruption. She passed a note and caused a teacher to stop teaching. So she was part of that. So I do think that it is fair. And she could have easily stopped children from joking if she would have stopped wearing the tuxedo.
What if the student who was being made fun of here, what if Maria was not wearing a tux at all, and instead she was just from an impoverished family, and she didn't have nice clothes. She had tattered clothes that were unclean, and kids were making fun of her because of that. Could she be suspended for being the root of that type of malicious behavior by her peers?
No, she would have not been suspended for that.
Why is that? What's the difference between that and her being made fun of for dressing overly nice in this circumstance?
Well, Maria is stating that the reason why she was wearing the tuxedo is for Amber Green, and she hasn't stated that she's wearing the tuxedo because she's in a financial situation that she can't help. She didn't state that. And in conclusion, Your Honors, I hope you consider this symbolic speech because her intent was unclear and ambiguous, and even if it is considered symbolic speech, still within his authority, Richard Belding, he acted appropriately by suspending